What if all you thought you knew about Sister Wives was merely the tip of a very different iceberg? From the very start, viewers were invited into the life of Kody Brown and his wives, a journey that held out promise of harmony, love, and an unflinching exploration of plural marriage. But beneath the family facades and TLC cameras, something far different was unfolding slowly. In 2025, that long-hidden truth finally burst wide open in a courtroom no one anticipated, and the one who had the key to it all. Robyn Brown, the same wife who had stood so quietly at Kody's side, but this time, she wasn't silent. This time, she came with documents, evidence, and a voice no one anticipated. Stick with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to walk through a real-life family unraveling, not on reality TV, but in real courtrooms with real consequences. And trust me, you'll want to hear every word of what happened when Robyn finally spoke. For years, fans thought Robyn was just going along with Kody's choices. Most thought she remained quiet because she was privileged, or because she did not want to upset the boat. But we now know, she remained quiet, not from ease, but from hope. Hope that they could change. Hope that if she remained faithful, that Kody would as well. But when the family suffered the devastating loss of Garrison Brown, Janelle's son, something changed. The court was convened to deal with his estate, and that's when Robyn made the greatest gesture of her life. Hook here, why talk now? All these years after, why produce the documents, the texts, the emails now? The reason is not anger, but safeguarding. Robyn explained to the judge that by remaining quiet, damage had persisted, particularly to the children. She wasn't trying to tear someone down, she was attempting to break a habit. And this wasn't just about Garrison. It was about years of choices Kody made in isolation, not with her, using their legal wedding to sign documents, transfer funds, and not take responsibility. Let that sink in for a second, because this was the second that the courtroom was rebalanced. Robyn, the same woman that Kody divorced Mary to lawfully wed, was now testifying against him. Her voice wasn't trembling. She didn't weep. She put it squarely, she trusted in their marriage, but she was a partner only on paper, not in heart, not in reality. And friends, when she stood before the judge and said it to him, the room fell silent. Even Kody, often boisterous and boastful, was at a loss for words. Another hook moment here. Can you envision how shocked he must have been? The one individual he believed would forever stand by his side had just taken a stand herself. And this wasn't on TV. This wasn't about attention. This was about acting correctly. After years of seeing everything deteriorate, outside of the courtroom, things imploded. News sources picked it up. Viewers on social media responded immediately. Robyn finally spoke up. She stood up when it counted. She stood by him for too long. And though the other wives remained mum, sources who know Christine told us that she was proud. That she never imagined Robyn would have the courage, but she was happy she did. And Janelle? Silent, but relieved. For once, someone spoke out what everybody else had been thinking, but were too afraid to make public. And Mary, she's long gone, but even she couldn't help but notice how the tables turned. Robyn, who used to be Kody's partner in crime, now found herself being the one keeping him in check. Let me ask you something here. If you could keep your family's future safe by exposing a painful secret, would you? That's where Robyn was. And rather than keeping quiet, she opted for clarity. That makes this moment in Sister Wives history so compelling, not so much because of what was said, but because of whom it was said by. Robyn, the quiet one, came out of hiding and spoke for herself and the family in pain. And then what? She didn't appear on talk shows, she didn't do a media tour. Instead, she boxed up, downsized to a smaller house in Flagstaff, and began anew. No giant cameras, no glare. Just her and her kids. Some report that she's considering writing a book. Others say she's giving herself time to heal. Whatever it is, one thing is certain, she's no longer hiding. And that, dear viewer, is where the real story gets interesting. Because for years we saw a family act like everything was okay. But now, the acting is done. The truth is out. And Robyn, of all anyone, is the one who brought it to the surface. So here's one last hook for you. If Robyn risked everything to tell the truth, what does that mean about the secrets still hidden in this family's tale? Stay tuned to this series, because we're just getting underway. From court papers to emotional testimony, and from hushed origins to profound conclusions, this tale has changed the way we perceive the Brown family, and it's only just beginning. It all began in a small courtroom in Flagstaff, Arizona. No flashing cameras, no music, no reality TV editing magic, only the soft buzz of fluorescent lights, the flutter of paperwork, and the quiet tension that fills the air when two people who once shared a life now sit on opposite sides of the room. Legal teams stood, the judge perused the files, and the courtroom was silent. But the most astonishing detail of all, Robyn Brown was not sitting next to Kody. She wasn't holding his hand. She wasn't softly speaking words of encouragement like we've witnessed her do countless times throughout the years. No, she was standing opposite him. To get an idea of just how shocking that is, you have to look back to the start of their journey. For over a decade, Robyn was regarded as Kody Brown's closest and most supportive friend. In the eyes of many fans, she wasn't only one of his wives, she was the wife. The one Kody divorced his first wife, Mary, to marry legally. The one he spent the most time with during the COVID-19 lockdown. The one he defended in nearly every argument. She was always there, calm, composed, quiet, always seeming to support Kody, even when his decisions hurt the rest of the family. But today, in this court, everything shifted. For years, Sister Wives viewers had wondered what actually went on behind closed doors. How did Robyn feel watching Mary, Janelle, and Christine gradually drift away? Did she feel guilty, trapped, shielded, or perhaps simply exhausted of being blamed? But Robyn never spoke those answers publicly. Instead, she remained quiet. Until today. When Robyn entered that courtroom on that spring day, the air was charged in the room. Individuals who had been following this family for more than a decade felt the gravity of what was occurring. Because if Robyn, the woman who stood with Kody when everyone else walked away, was no longer standing in his corner, it meant something had actually really broken. She didn't come crying. She wasn't furious. She was deliberate. Actually too deliberate. Resolute. Her face wasn't bitter. It was stern, resolute. This wasn't the Robyn we'd grown to appreciate over years on television. This was someone who had obviously hit a wall. The judge brought the case to order. Lawyer groups rose, and then it was obvious Robyn wasn't simply there to observe. She was there to testify. And not for Kody. What ensued wasn't dramatic in the nature of reality television. There weren't screams or table turns. What made it intense was the force of Robyn's words, consistent, calm, and clear-cut. She explained, in simple terms, how over the last couple of years, she had become disconnected, not only from the other wives, but also from herself. She talked about how decisions were being made on her behalf without her knowledge, how she was being used as a shield to cover Kody's reputation, but behind the scenes suffered the emotional and legal ramifications of the disintegrating family unit. Her declaration left everyone stunned. I kept quiet for years, because I believed that I was keeping the family together, she said softly, her voice calm. But then I saw that my silence was permitting pain to go unchecked, for me, for the children, and for others who weren't heard. It was a moment of quiet, personal accountability, and it was more powerful than any theatrical explosion ever could have been. Folks in the courtroom looked at each other. Kody seemed shocked, nearly as if he didn't know to expect such clarity or brashness from her. Perhaps he assumed she'd remain in her place. Perhaps he figured she'd keep the family's reputation intact. But that day, Robyn wasn't guarding the reputation, she was guarding the truth. And that truth? It was one she could express simply, but force deeply. She felt used, emotionally disregarded, and worst of all, legally bound to decisions she never really consented to. She talked about the weight of being the sole legal wife, how that position, once designed to safeguard her and her children, gradually became the mechanism Kody used to maintain control over decisions regarding property, money, and family heritage. I was legal on paper, but I wasn't his equal, she said. I was just the last one left. That sentence hung there like a storm cloud, weighty, real. And then the papers. Robyn's lawyers then brought forward a string of claims and letters, emails, texts, even bank transfers, demonstrating that Kody supposedly had made family asset decisions without getting her complete knowledge, despite being legally bound together. This was not merely a breakdown in marriage, it was about money, control, and trust. She wasn't accusing him of anything criminal. This was not an attack. It was, in her words, a clarification, a declaration that she would no longer let her silence be mistaken for agreement. Kody, for his part, looked stunned. Red-faced, a man who once ruled over 4 wives now stood without a single one defending him. He attempted to voice his opinion. He requested to reply. The judge granted a brief statement, and during it, Kody declared he was hurt and surprised by Robyn's testimony. But even then, he sounded more like he was deflecting. He spoke about how difficult the show had been for him, how the pressure had made it challenging for him. He never truly acknowledged what Robyn was stating, and that maybe said more than anything. At the conclusion of the session, it was apparent Robyn hadn't appeared to testify. She had appeared to reclaim her power, not with shouting, not with cursing, but with clarity, with composure, with courage. She had been loyal to Kody for almost 15 years. She had seen the other wives exit, one at a time. She had endured criticism, judgment, and accusation. But on that day, Robyn Brown chose herself, and in so doing she shocked the whole Sister Wives world. Because if Robyn could stand in that courtroom and tell her truth, what else has been concealed all along? To really know what happened there in that courtroom, why Robyn Brown stood opposite Kody rather than alongside him, we must turn back the clock. Back to when she first joined the family. It was 2010. Sister Wives was just premiering on TLC, and the world wanted to know, perhaps even to be cynical about, this big, polygamous family in Utah. Kody already had 3 wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine. They collectively had 12 kids and were coping with a convoluted, frequently stressful home. And then Robyn walked in, tall, quiet, newly divorced, with 3 of her own kids. On the surface, it was a fairy tale romance of love and new beginning. Kody explained Robyn was added to the family because he was called to marry her. He called it destiny. And Robyn, she appeared dignified by the prospect of becoming a part of a family she so admired. She was respectful, reserved, and walked on eggshells, or so it seemed, at least initially. But the fissures began early, and hardly anyone saw them then. You see, Robyn didn't just walk into a marriage, she walked into a pressure cooker. She was to be inserted into an already strained family dynamic. Kody was pulled thin. His time, his energy, and let's not sugarcoat it, his attention were already being argued among the wives. Mary was emotionally disconnected. Janelle was always concerned with work and stability. Christine was struggling with jealousy and resentment. And then there was Robyn, immediately a source of conflict, even if she tried not to be. To the public, she appeared favored. Kody seemed lighter around her, more attentive. He kissed her in ways so different from how he'd kissed the others. And while the family insisted that love should multiply, not divide, that's not what was happening. Rather, love was being channeled, focused on a single woman, and that woman was Robyn. What everyone didn't realize, however, was the emotional toll of being in that place. Insiders, people who were close to the Brown family, report that Robyn frequently felt emotionally boxed in. Behind the scenes, she wasn't merely the favorite wife. She found herself the emotional go-between, forever attempting to navigate between Kody and the other wives, between Kody and the children, and even between Kody and the rising financial stress of maintaining such a large family. When things didn't go well, she was supposed to be the cool head, the peacemaker, the one the family turned to for support. But in private, that support began to fray. With each passing year, things only became more complicated. Christine was the first to go, and when she did, Robyn remained quiet in public, but in private, she was shaken. Christine's going shook the entire center of the family. For the first time, a wife had chosen herself over the lifestyle. And Robyn, who had for years thought that remaining meant strength, started to wonder where she belonged. But still, she remained. Then Janelle showed up. And then Mary. Both relationships with Kody dissolved quietly. The show dramatized it naturally, but the actual emotional blow wasn't on the episode, it was to Robyn personally. She wasn't just observing a family breakup, she was left in the wreckage. Fans imagined Robyn having won, that she had won, Kody and the others lost. But in truth, she was left with the sole burden of a man now angry, bitter, and drained emotionally. When the other wives departed, it wasn't only the marriages that were dissolved, it was the equilibrium, the structure, the system of support that had sustained this intricate way of life. And Robyn, who had always preferred a more low-key position, was suddenly in the middle of it all. And Kody, he didn't cope very well. Behind the scenes, Robyn began noticing changes. Kody grew more controlling, more frustrated. He felt abandoned. And in his mind, Robyn was the last loyal one. But that loyalty came with a price. You have to understand. One family friend shared privately. Kody leaned on her for everything. He expected her to fix what was broken. Emotionally, financially, legally. And she couldn't. Robyn, often seen as the quiet wife, was actually managing more than anyone knew. She was juggling real estate negotiations on the Coyote Pass property. She was diffusing hurts and neglects of adult children who felt overlooked. She was helping manage family finances while keeping her own children's emotional plate spinning. And through it all, she was attempting to maintain her own sense of peace that was rapidly appearing. It was during this period that Robyn began keeping record, not sneakily, clandestinely, but as a means of defending herself. Notes, emails, dialogue, agreement, texts, anything that could potentially be important if things one day turned ugly. And they did. As there began to surface legal fights, specifically regarding the ownership of property, child support, and Garrison Brown's estate, Robyn found herself more deeply involved in Kody's choices she ever wished. She was technically his wife. That made her on the document. She was bound to his name, his actions, his debts, his choices. And though Kody had made those choices in the interest of the family, they tended to leave Robyn vulnerable financially and legally. She had tried to avoid conflict. She had stayed to keep the but peace, as it turned out, had a price tag. And Robyn was the one left holding the bill. On the day that she appeared in the courtroom, not alongside Kody but opposite him, she wasn't there to fight. She wasn't there for revenge. She was there because she had finally come to the point that silence was no longer safe. She had borne too much, for too long. And the world, which had earlier seen her as a passive character in Kody's narrative, was now witnessing the true picture. A woman who had attempted to keep everything intact, but one who finally felt that she needed to put herself first. The courtroom had previously been filled with a dense silence, the kind that is only produced when something long concealed is finally ready to be unveiled. But no one, not even the most intimate family insiders, saw what Robyn Brown did next coming. This was in early 2025. Months of online speculation, behind closed doors court filing, and the constant of enigmatic social media updates the Brown family members finally resulted in, and realities alike, anticipating something. Nothing could have gotten them ready for what Robyn ushered carrying. Though, she wasn't sitting by Kody's side. She wasn't smiling and nodding along quietly, as she had for so many years on Sister Wives. Instead, she stood by the side of her own legal representative, strong, calm, with a full folder of papers clutched her fist. The courtroom had no idea yet, but they were on the verge of experiencing the greatest betrayal of all, out of a place of heartbreak, rather than anger. When Robyn finally spoke, it wasn't with venom. Her voice trembled at first, but it wasn't, it was anger. Years of, I remained silent, she explained to court, cause I loved him. I thought we were constructing something long-term, but silence admitted too much damage, particularly to the children. The court case that day wasn't about divorce, or division of property, or who got the kids, although those aspects were involved also. The main thing was something yet more tragic. Garrison, Janelle, and Kody's favorite child, had died back in spring, in a tragic and shocking event that devastated the entire Sister Wives fan base and family. But with death came questions about money, property rights, and guardianship for younger. It was against that backdrop that Robyn forward, declaring she could no longer be silent about the. And then there were the documents. She produced dozens of pages, bank wires, real estate deals, and personal texts, some dating back almost a decade. The courtroom remained in stunned silence as they were placed in the record. One lawyer leaned over to a reporter and, "This is paper. This is chronology of." Robyn's paperwork suggested something you had dared say out loud. That Kody Brown, away from the cameras, had been leveraging marriage to Robyn as a tool that let him consolidate power and avoid accountability, while appearing to be a devoted husband father on TV. She accused Kody of gate property holding venture trust, or LLC, without sharing, evaded some financial obligations, particularly with adult previous wives, prevented court hearings by claiming they didn't concern Robyn a sense, when in fact she was mentioned in various documents to file or respond to custody-related documents when her signature or is required, and worst of all, Robyn informed the court that when Garrison breakdown at Kody had grown more he cut off contact. He was upset that Garrison was getting, and he felt betrayed. "I plead call to at least contact," he said. "It's not my business anymore." That crushed. The judge was visibly shaken and asked Robyn why she had waited so long to report what had happened. Her response was subdued. "Because I believed that marriage meant being partners. I believed that love meant to protect one another. But I was a partner on paper, not in reality. She went on to say that she had habitually defended Kody for years, even when she did not agree with what he was doing. She didn't want their family to be perceived as broken by the public or by their kids. But with Garrison, she saw that keeping quiet came with too great a price. Among the strongest pieces of evidence Robyn provided were what she termed the Garrison Files, a poignant series of texts, voicemails, and handwritten letters from Garrison to different family members. They included some that expressed emotional suffering, financial concerns, and a sense of abandonment. Robyn explained that Garrison had contacted her multiple times, wanting to know if Kody would ever speak to him again. One voicemail that played during court simply stated, "I don't even care if he wants to yell at me. I just want to know I still matter." The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge needed to stop and gather his thoughts. Robyn's lawyer then disclosed that after Garrison died, Kody tried to his name from responsibility associated with. He stated he had no say in funeral arrangement, no money due, and no emotional part. But Robyn's papers spoke another tale. Kody had been in on it. He had made decisions in secret, particularly over memorial plans and possible estate battles. And yet, he had been unwilling to own up when it counted most. That was when the full weight of Robyn's evidence struck. She wasn't seeking to hurt Kody. She was calling him out. Not out of malice, but out of love for the children, the family, and the truth. By day's end, the courtroom had been turned on its head. News outlets scrambled for headlines. Social media fans were shocked. And Robyn Brown, once the quiet supporter, had emerged as the voice that no one anticipated. But her message was unmistakable. As Robyn concluded her testimony and returned to her seat next to her lawyer, the courtroom was suddenly quiet. Everyone turned to look at Kody Brown. For the first time in years, the man who'd held so much, the family, the story, the show, was rendered helpless. His face, normally calm and arrogant, blushed a deep red. His jaw tightened, his shoulders squared. He appeared not merely surprised, but betrayed. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not from her. Kody had always felt that Robyn was his anchor, the sole remaining wife who knew him, who supported him, who stood by his decisions even as others left. When Mary strayed, when Janelle discovered herself, when Christine closed the door behind her on leaving, it was Robyn who remained. Robyn who consoled him before the cameras, Robyn who wept alongside him as he claimed to be heartbroken over the destruction of their plural vision. But now, she was the one unraveling him. "I never thought this would come from her," Kody was overheard saying to his legal team during a break. "She knows what I've been through. Why would she twist the knife?" But insiders in the courtroom say there was no twisting, no malice, no anger. Robyn had stood her ground, firm, emotional to be sure, but resolute. She wasn't attempting to dismantle him. She was speaking the truth, and the truth hurt. Kody tried to counter, once rising from his seat and requesting the judge to explain Robyn's sequence of events. His boomy voice shook. "These were things out of context," he maintained. "I did what I needed to do to defend my family." But the court wouldn't budge. The papers were entered. The testimony was transcribed. And the message was unmistakable. Kody Brown could no longer dictate the narrative. The courtroom doors weren't even shut before news began to circulate. A local reporter tweeted, "Robyn Brown just flipped the courtroom upside down. Bombshell testimony that will shake the Sister Wives fandom." In hours, headlines erupted on social media and tabloids. Robyn Brown testifies against Kody, alleges emotional neglect and financial The last wife breaks away. Robyn's shocking courtroom turn. Kody Brown betrayed by Robyn. Fans react to the Sister Wives showdown. And the fans? They set the internet ablaze. Fans who had once blamed Robyn for stealing Kody now saw a woman who had also suffered quietly, who had carried emotional weight not just from her own relationship with Kody, but from being tied to the fallout with all the other wives. Instagram comment sections filled with emotional reactions. "I never thought I'd say this, but Robyn did the right thing. She remained quiet for too long, but this was courage. We need to apologize to Robyn. She was trapped too." Emotional meltdowns of her testimony went viral on TikTok. Fans analyzed each word, each look, each legal document she spoke of. Some even created side-by-side comparison videos of Robyn in previous seasons, quiet, crying, dedicated to the new Robyn, strong, steady, and telling her truth. A popular hashtag started to build #Robyn breaks free for Kody. The backlash was a dream come true. He had once been the charming hub of a plural household, the patriarch of 18 children, the champion of love should be multiplied. Now his name was on the lips of attorneys he couldn't silence and judges who wouldn't bend. Sources familiar with Kody report that he felt humiliated. He felt Robyn's testifying had irreparably damaged his reputation, not only in the court's eyes, but also in the public. He's angry, one source alleged, not only at Robyn, but at the world for turning on him. He doesn't get how people can't see his perspective. His perspective, however, was becoming increasingly difficult to defend. Over a decade of reality television had made it seem like he exposed every crack, every fight, every moment of disregard, particularly for his elder children and ex-wives. And now that Robyn herself had admitted some of the behavior the fans had suspected all along, it was like placing the last nail in the coffin. While Kody fumed behind the scenes, his ex-wives remained silent, at least publicly. But insiders close to Kody Brown told Radar she was viewing the courtroom soap opera with bittersweet pride. Kody never resented Robyn, one family source revealed. She was hurt, obviously, betrayed perhaps, but she always felt Robyn was in a difficult place. She's proud Robyn finally spoke up. Fans interpreted a cryptic Instagram post Kody posted mere days after the hearing as her way of being supportive. It was a quote photo that said, "Speaking your truth might shake the world. Speak it anyway." No names, no caption. But the message was heard loud and clear. The most gut-wrenching aspect of all was the ripple effect on the kids. Some adult Brown children were said to have been shattered by the news. Some felt vindicated. At last, someone had come along and validated what they had spent years attempting to tell them. Others were torn, racked by the agony of seeing their parents publicly disintegrate. Those close to Kody, including some of the older children, have severed ties with him completely, sources claim. Robyn's children, however, particularly the younger ones, have been hidden from the media, protected from the escalating circus. Even they, though, were questioning things. Why is daddy in the news? Why are people angry with mommy? Questions no child should ever have to pose. As the day ended, Kody exited the courtroom, not alongside Robyn, but in her wake. Flashes of cameras, shouts of questions. He remained silent, so did she. She entered a car with her lawyer, eyes ahead, hands clasped. No matter what comes next, settlements, appeals, additional testimony, the world witnessed something irrevocable. Robyn Brown had stepped out of Kody's shadow at last. And Kody, he would now confront a world that no longer regarded him as the misunderstood polygamist father, but as a man whose last defender had just abandoned. The courtroom was quiet as the last day of hearings was finished. No longer were there surprise witnesses. No longer were there gasps from the crowd. Only papers being picked up, lawyers calmly talking about the next moves, and an awareness that something historic had just occurred. Robyn Brown didn't utter a word as she left the courthouse. She did not turn to the cameras. She did not make a statement. She did not dash to the media with interviews or headlines. Instead, she walked out, head high, eyes forward, and disappeared from the public eye. Silence speaks loudly. For years, Robyn had been labeled with countless monikers: the favorite, the legal wife, the homewrecker, even Kody's puppet. Sister Wives fans debated her motivations, her tears, her silence. But in the weeks after the trial, that silence became something entirely different. Robyn wasn't silent because she was weak. She wasn't silent because she didn't care. She remained quiet because she was sorting through pain the world never quite comprehended. Following proceedings, Robyn left the big family house that she previously shared with Kody. She downsized a humble rental house in Flagstaff, with room for her and her kids, but not a fraction of the luxury that once characterized the Brown life. It was a low-key move. No press releases, no TV cameras, just a clean slate. From one insider, she just needed space. Not from the public, from the past. Whispers started online. Was Robyn writing a book? Some said yes, a tell-all memoir of her time in the Brown family. Others were speculating that she was negotiating with producers for a documentary-style series, this time relating her side of the story. But nothing was confirmed. Robyn said nothing. No Instagram teasers, no paparazzi shots, no leaks. What was confirmed, though, was this: she was finally living for herself. Gone were the days of navigating a family she didn't quite belong to. Gone were the expectations of pleasing a man who used loyalty as a weapon. Gone was the weight of being the last wife standing. It was now just Robyn, a mother, a woman, and someone attempting to rediscover herself after emotional destruction. For longtime viewers of Sister Wives, this moment wasn't just the end of a legal battle, it was the rewriting of a narrative they'd followed for more than a decade. The woman they once blamed had now been revealed as another victim of the same system, a structure where women were expected to share love, sacrifice their needs, and smile through pain, all for the sake of family unity. Seeing Robyn testify, it all changed for me. A fan wrote on Reddit, "She wasn't the bad guy, she was just trapped. Like the rest of them, perhaps even more so." A second viewer posted, "She remained when others departed. And we believed that did make her guilty. But perhaps she was simply afraid. Or perhaps she was still optimistic." Social media changed, though not everyone suddenly loved Robyn. There was a different tone. Criticism mellowed. Compassion grew. She was no longer so much of a scapegoat, and more of a symbol. A symbol of what it means when loyalty turns into a prison. While Robyn discovered stillness, Kody discovered storms. The repercussions of the courtroom drama came crashing down on him, not only legally, but socially, emotionally, and personally. He was no longer the guy with multiple wives, 18 children, and a hit TLC series. He was now the guy who had been openly confronted by the sole wife who had remained, and who had eventually left too. Insiders within the family report that Kody pulled away. He's back in Flagstaff, but not with anyone. All but a few of his kids are far away. He's broken up with Robyn. And TLC, they've gone silent. There are rumors of an end to the franchise, or at least a wholesale rebranding, minus Kody as the central figure. One source explained, Robyn was the one he assumed would remain loyal to him, that regardless of what transpired between the other wives, she'd be there for him. Her testimony destroyed that fantasy. Kody himself has been publicly quiet since the trial, but insiders say the former self-assured patriarch is now a man grappling with loss, trying to make sense of how his vision for a plural family ultimately ended in isolation and scandal. The other three wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, have meanwhile kept on forging ahead with their new lives. Robyn Janelle, although mourning the tragic loss of her son Garrison, has emerged as a voice for mothers handling estranged family situations. She's found solace in independence and nature. Robyn Mary operates her bed and breakfast, and has been centering on self-enrichment and empowerment, sharing messages about healing and strength. And now that Robyn has come out from behind the veil, there is a subdued feeling of comradeship among the women who were previously alienated by jealousy, resentment, and suffering. An insider close to Christine revealed, they don't speak on a regular basis, but now there's peace. The war is over. Sister Wives began as a reality experiment, a glimpse into the world of a contemporary polygamist family. But along the way, it became something more, a cautionary tale, a drama, a breakdown, a breakthrough. And in the last act of this drama, the most surprising twist wasn't a divorce. It was Robyn's voice. For more than a decade, she stood by Kody, wept in front of the cameras, and almost never defied. But when the moment arrived, when silence would mean letting damage persist, she spoke. And when she spoke, the world heard. As cameras dim, as court records are shelved, as the Brown family breaks into separate lives, one thing is certain. Robyn Brown, once considered the quiet wife, the privileged wife, the polarizing outsider, altered it all. She didn't do it in anger. She didn't do it out of revenge. She did it out of truth. And that truth has become part of a bigger story. One of love, control, survival, and ultimately freedom. The Brown family may never be whole again. But for Robyn, and for so many who watched on the sidelines, a new chapter has finally opened.